Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
And I'm here.
Oh, hi here.
We've joked about it before on the show, but I literally ate too much Taco Bell before starting this.
That sounds good. I had to race home. Thursday nights are Lincoln's
Taco Bell nights.
Yeah. I wish. Oh no, Taco Bell would be terrible before being stuck in the tiny little
a swimming pool,
glass walled viewing. Yeah. So I just came home, fired up the grill, and threw some brats on, which are fantastic. But that was 5 hours ago, 4 hours ago. So I'm hungry again. I want Taco Bell.
Well,
fuck the show. We're gonna go have Taco Bell.
I had it for lunch. It's right by where I work, and then going home, I was like, surprise, we're having Taco Bell for dinner. It's already been gone. And I could be like, oh, well, the leftovers. But what's the fun in that?
Yeah, no.
Let's play a little Russian roulette with my bowels while we do this.
I didn't realize that you were that, I'm going to have to go look up the suicide prevention hotline, aren't I? Be like, Ben, your life is not that bad. Don't double Taco Bell it.
Don't double bell.
Yeah, double. I don't know. If I have Taco Bell twice in a week, that's getting kind of risky.
It's bad news. I will be regretting this shit, particularly at 1 a.m.
And 1 p.m. tomorrow.
1 p.m. Yeah.
And also at 7 and 10. And...
I might not have to look up a topic next week for this podcast because I have to do a bunch of meetings in the morning and won't be out of them until 12 or 1 p.m. So stay tuned
a lot braver than I gave you credit for.
Stay tuned for Ben Shits His Pants, The Revenge.
I'm picturing it like a 8th grade science fair presentation. What happens when an average Ben eats Taco Bell twice in one day?
Well,
you just have
we have those corporate kind of use your strength sort of seminars and stuff that are just really kind of pointless.
So you want to say all my strength is used up motivating myself to fucking come into work in the morning. I'm done.
Pretty much. That's what I really want to say. But it's I want to do that. I want to go to from business to business and just talk about shitting your pants and the danger you're in.
Yeah, like a motivational speaker, but if you're not motivating or demotivating, you're just informing, an informative speaker.
Yeah, and what you could do as employers when your workers inevitably shit their pants because they're living off of Taco Bell 3 times a day.
What's his name? Sasha Cohen, whatever it says.
Sasha Conan Doyle.
Conan Doyle, yes.
He wrote Sherlock Holmes.
I'm picturing that kind of style documentary. Actually, probably more in line with I don't know the production company's name. Christopher Guest did Best in Show and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But kind of one that's half real, not all mockumentary, where we have to trick a college somewhere into hiring you as the commencement speaker. And then your entire speech is about becoming an adult and shitting your pants in a business setting.
Jordan Peterson's been doing that for years. So I should be.
And they pay it's a pretty good payday to do a speech.
And his shit is way more embarrassing than what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And at least you don't sound like Kermit the Frog, but
yeah. I will start emo. I will start tearing up when I talk about it.
From both the PTSD, but also some pride, a little bit of both.
It's okay to cry. That's the big message here. Your ass is going to cry into the toilet.
I was going to say, especially if it was spicy, it's the tears will flow.
The tears will flow like the shit flows.
Was it you? I saw something online that was a brilliant point. It says, "Why is spicy the only flavor your ass can taste?" if you shit after something spicy, you feel that. But if you eat something delicious, you never take a shit and you're like,
you need to,
that feels delicious.
You need to refine your palate. That ain't true. You just have to, explore your horizons a little bit more. That ass can feel like me and you. So yeah, welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast, where ass is the flavor of the day. I
really hope this is somebody's first episode. They're coming in like, what the fuck did I just find? Yeah.
On the show, we tell each other stories, and we're in football season, and I try to pay attention. That's my role.
Yeah, at least it's, well, I was going to say, it's not like because last week your team was playing.
Yeah.
This week they're not, but you've got a bunch of fantasy players in.
Yeah, but we've been doing this for like 240 episodes, so I'm pretty checked out.
Fair enough.
So it's like, even like the most dog shit football game, I'm going to be like, yeah, that's interesting, Steve. God damn it. I care a lot about what the fucking Jaguars do.
Fair enough. And I'm used to it. That's kind of the response I get to like anybody I talk to in my day-to-day life. No matter what the topic is, basically anything in the room is more interesting than me.
I wish I was rich just so I could like pay everybody you come into contact with in your life to all ignore you to watch football. Like,
well, that would almost be better because it's not far off how often I get ignored, but for nothing. Like people just like I apparently, I've just come to terms with the fact that I've got the like Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller personality where just nobody listens. It's like, and they're not wrong. I very rarely have anything interesting to say. Anyway, so good thing this is my topic this week.
Your time to shine. Your time to reclaim the spotlight that the NFL has stolen from you time and time again.
I'm upselling our show and my abilities once again. I was really not sure I was going to have I had a topic, but I knew I didn't fucking have time to do it because things aren't getting better at work, and that's the only time I work on this show is at work. Because if I'm at home, I've got better things to do. Actually, raising kids, I don't know how much that's better. It's more important things to do. So I didn't get to do the one topic I had picked out, and I was like, fucking creepypasta week. But I'm going to pat myself on the back. I avoided that and went with another one of like your fallbacks that I'm stealing. Where we're going to take a look at a number of kind of myths, legends. A couple of them are like mythical creatures. Actually, I think
some of them are me
this week. I was going to say some of the ones I was looking at were more like ghost stories, but I left all those out. These are all actual cryptids, mythological creatures of Idaho. Because I was sitting here thinking, what's the state I know the fucking least about? Because it's the most boring state I can imagine.
You have my attention. I lived in Idaho for about 7 years. 8 years. Yeah.
I knew you'd been there. I didn't know you lived there that long.
Yeah, like my elementary school years. When I was really little, my parents moved me and my brother up from California. I don't know why they picked Idaho.
I was going to say, wait, you're telling me people live in Idaho? I didn't come across that part in any of these stories.
It's not a good idea. Idaho is a very fucking weird place. Famous potatoes is what you'll see on license plates.
They're legends and myths and urban legends or whatever. They reflect that.
And there's like half of Oregon that just wants to become Idaho. It's very bizarre. It's like a weird conservative movement to like make the eastern half of Oregon part of Idaho. And it's like, Idaho is miserable.
Is it because they're trying to get away from Portland? Because conservatives fucking hate Portland.
That's fair. Portland's weird. I don't hate it, but it's weird.
No, but it's the bane of conservatives.
Yeah, it's absolute hell to them because they'll see like a dude with a ponytail and fucking shit their pants. And I have a seminar for that. But no, they're just like they hate that the state like has, you know, services for people. So they want to go to Idaho where they don't have any of that shit. Everybody's broke, but there are potatoes.
Yeah, I can't imagine a world where I want to become part of Idaho.
Yeah.
Which is unfair because I know shit about Idaho. This is the most I've learned about Idaho, was the like 3 hours of note taking I did for the show.
But I was going to say, like, you know, I haven't even heard these. I bet they're all true. Because Idaho to me is like separate from reality in a lot of ways.
They're very uncreative people in Idaho because it's all like starts out as most generic. Every single one of these are like according to Native American legend. It's like because you stole the land and
what
you can't even bring
like
your own.
Some fucking dipshit white dude half listened to a story. Is like, yeah.
Fairness, a lot of these I think were just pulled out of some white dude's ass, but then to try to make it sound more mystical, they said Native American legends.
Yeah.
And that's not specific to Idaho because when we came and we murdered and took their land, we had to also take the coolness. Anything that we just decided like, well, these people don't deserve this country, but we like these aspects and these aspects, so we're going to take those and name our sports teams after them. That too. It's a really fun time in our history to talk about. We've talked about colonization many times.
I was going to say the other thing everybody kind of should know about Idaho is their fucking Boise State football field, which is blue, and birds land in it and die because they think it's water. And you would think that happened a couple of times. You would change your fucking field.
I think they tell us that they think it's water, and they die. I think the birds are fucking killing themselves because they realize they're in Idaho.
I was like, yeah, we're never going to finish this migration.
Yeah, they're not stupid enough to think it's water. They're like, fuck, we live in Idaho. I'm ending it right here on this goddamn field. I'm going to at least take it out with me.
And, if you live in Idaho and you're pissed that we're shitting on it, it has great hiking trails.
I've got enough room in my inbox for all 6 of you to write in.
Yeah. If your modem dial-up is working, you'll get through this podcast by, 2026.
And if anybody's listened to the show before, they're thinking, hey, wait, Steve, you're in Ohio. You can't talk. Yeah, I know. I get it.
That's why we can talk.
I'm not saying my state's better than Idaho. I'm saying it sucks
I went
differently.
I live in a state that's actually pretty cool, and I went to the least cool part of it.
Yeah.
I'm basically... My city has dreams of being Idaho.
Yeah. From what I gather, your city's the one that's just like, we're touching Washington State, which makes us cool, right? And it's like, no, you're the kid that sits at the table next to the cool kids table and then pretends like you're part of it.
Yeah, but this would be like if the cool kids built a fucking mountain range to separate us from the cool kids table.
Yeah. Which they do. I mean, it might be an emotional mountain range, but
no,
that's how school works.
It's real. It's real. Those are real mountains.
So anyway, Idaho legends, or the legends of Idaho, as I titled my notes. Although it's just really a couple legends of Idaho. And the first one I decided to start off with is, of course, the one that I have no fucking idea how to pronounce this. It's the Nimrigar, I don't know. But it's a cannibalistic race of little people, also known as mountain dwarves. They're between 26 and 36 inches in height.
It's not actually a name of a creature, it's the name of the family.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Nimrigars.
Well, that's kind of why, like I said, they're 24 to 36 inches, so 2 to 3 feet in height. That's 0.66 to 1 meter to you metric blokes. Although I think you give height in centimeters. I don't fucking know.
Is it better to get eaten by a big thing or a little thing? I feel like a big thing, right?
Right. Because, like, A, it would be quicker.
Yeah.
And B, at least you don't feel like a fucking idiot for getting eaten by some little...
Like a bear will just rip you apart. These little guys will eat you like a fucking corn cob.
Yeah, you're like, fuck, that was my hand. And they're like, that's right, and we'll be back tomorrow for the other hand, but I'm full right now. I can't eat anymore tonight.
Oh, you're a bitch. Have you ever been to Taco Bell? I just ate my 3 days of calories.
So yeah, they're 2 to 3 feet in height, feature a mouth filled with rows of sharp, pointy, jagged teeth. They're also said to wield tiny bows, which I think is a little insulting to have to specify tiny bows, because at this point, they're 2 to 3 feet high. Who's picturing them with a full-size longbow?
A Dark Souls, great bow.
Right. So it takes 6 of them to operate it.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, they're like living ballistas.
That would be a great Dark Souls enemy.
Yeah. It probably is, or will be. But they shoot poisoned arrows. I like them because they're mountain dwarfs with sharp, pointy, jagged teeth that hop around and shoot arrows at people. And it basically describes my family tree. My dad's side of the family's from West Virginia. We're not a tall group of individuals.
Oh, you love eating, fuckers.
Fuckers, right. We might, because cannibalism's one of those things that could easily run in one's family tree and you not know about it, because you tend to not, that tends to...
Until you have a taste.
Yeah, right. They live in the wild heights of the Oahe, Pedro, and Wind River mountain ranges. I think Wind River is in the Dakotas, though, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know. Mountain ranges and shit like that, I remember...
It spans, yeah.
They span so far that it's oh, that's technically a part of that, but it's touching Idaho, so they take credit for it.
I was just thinking, because I watched the movie Wind River with Jeremy Renner in it, and it was pretty good, as far as those kind of slow burn mystery whatever movies go. But I was pretty sure that took place in the Dakotas. But anyway, doesn't matter. They are mysterious and dangerous creatures. These creatures are said to use rocks to bash in the skulls of anybody in their tribe who isn't pulling their admittedly diminutive weight. You're not doing enough.
What cartoon shit is this where the little cannibal people bonk each other?
Right. That's exactly, yeah. I'm picturing barefoot. I'm picturing literally saying the word bonk as they hit each other, but it goes back and forth. They just take turns. Bonk, 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 until one of them's skulls cave in. And then they eat the victim because, waste not, want not. So both and I know I'm going to butcher these, Paiute, well, not Shoshone. I know that one because we've got places here in Ohio named after that tribe. But the Paiute and Shoshone tribes were said to have come under attack multiple times from these little terrors. The mothers... Yeah, right. It's you wonder, did they say how crap are under attack, or did they just grab the broom and shoo? Shoo.
Yeah, were they under attack like I was with mice?
Right. Is it a oh no, or is it a
God damn it? I'm gonna be up until 3 a.m. trying to catch this fucker. He ran under.
I've got meetings
under the bed. Just a little goblin man. I love it.
The mothers were afraid that they would kidnap their children. The elders, who were wiser and, elder, were more afraid that these creatures would sow discord within the tribes by sneaking in and committing pranks and tomfoolery, and also framing tribespeople for serious crimes.
No, it's bad vibes.
Yeah, it's anything that, disrupts the community of the tribe, it has to be these little mountain dwarfs. It seems to me when they talk about, well, here's what they are, and this is the problem they cause. They see it's it's a screaming these are scapegoats for people to just murder their own children.
This is advanced political scapegoating in the
exactly.
form of a myth.
Right. Especially since the legends, the quote-unquote Native American, which I say that maybe it is, and if it is, I'm not shitting on, Native American story, traditions. I'm shitting on the white people's versions of retelling of the Native American traditions. But according to the legend, apparently these tribes got fed up with it and they said, fuck this, and they banded together and waged a war against the Nimrigar, which led to the dwarfs' extinctions. Or did it? Because it's said today, if you roam the mountains of Idaho, those 3 mountain ranges specifically that I'm not going to try to pronounce again, you may or may not come across little sharp-toothed, poison-arrowed ass dwarfs.
A friend of mine is actually, like, going to Idaho soon, if he hasn't already. I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks. But he was going to Idaho to pick up a motorcycle he bought and then was going to, like, drive it back. And if a bunch of little men come out of the woods and just pick him up with his motorcycle and carry him off.
Do you think they sing songs like the Oompa Loompas do?
God, I hope so. That movie was so bad for, like, a generation of children of, like, now anything small, we just, like, want them to, like, sing little lesson songs.
In fairness, I'm not tall.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like maybe that's that part of my family tree coming out, because I like to just sing stupid little songs all the fucking time. Just about, like, what I'm doing.
Oh,
yeah.
I have, like, 7 theme songs just about my cat. It's like, and they're all about how she's a fat idiot.
Yeah. I've got kind of the same thing, except instead of a cat, it's my 6-month-old daughter. I figure I got to take advantage, and the time's running very short now because she's getting old enough to have emotional intelligence where you can't, like, call your baby a fucking idiot without, like, actually causing emotional harm. You got to get it out, though.
I'm just like, you know, your self-esteem is such shit that it's like, it's bad, but, like, I can't wait to see, like, you try to, like, ascribe that value to another human.
Yeah, I'll have the one kid who actually has, like, recallable memories from being 6 months old and be like, I remember my dad singing a sing-songy tune about me being a fat fucking idiot that won't stop crying. But in my defense, she fucking cries for no reason. Babies are stupid.
And I was going to say, like, every parent sang that song in their head. You just had the balls to put it out in the world and sell it.
When the kid takes her rattle and smacks her face repeatedly and then cries because she got hit in the face, it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Just be like, you're a little genius? No.
Well, pointing and laughing was a bit over the top.
Hey, I disagree. Look, parenting styles differ. There's no right or wrong way to do this, man. That's wrong. There's no right way to do it. There's a lot of wrong ways to do it.
Most of America finds the wrong ways to do
it. Anyway, so that's the Nimrigar. Just little dwarfs that shoot arrows at people. May or may not got it genocided by Native American tribes. They had enough of their shit. The next one I know we've talked about on the show because it's one of those. They're called water babies. But they're almost more of a class of creature. It's almost like Bigfoot, where, like, every area has their Bigfoot and some call it something different, but it's always kind of the same idea. Mm-hmm. The other one I liked it too is, like, you always hear the story of the ghost, what is it, La Lorna, and there's some movies about it, but that's like a weeping woman type ghost on a bridge, and that's a fucking theme that you see all over the world. Mm-hmm. So are water babies. So I know we've talked about it before, but I think the last time we talked about it, there were a couple legends surrounding lakes in the American Southwest, like more around Texas, Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. Maybe they were these Idaho lakes, but I don't think they were. Shoshone legend says that during a particularly terrible famine, a number of mothers, driven mad by their inability to feed their babies, threw the babies into nearby streams, rivers, and lakes. The idea that drowning them was more merciful than letting them die of starvation.
And that year was 1992.
Right. And again in 98 and last week actually
there was
another
a story like that would not have really surprised me growing up in Idaho. Like I've been like, oh yeah.
Well, and I think that's why, because I kind of remember the one that we talked about. Like I said, I'm almost positive it was from a different area, but that it was the same. And shit, now that I think about it, maybe we didn't talk about it on the show. I think we did, though. But I think I've seen it on TV, too, because I watch a lot of those shows. But they're all kind of that, or a lot of times they start with that, like, oh, it was because of famine or smallpox or something like that. And the mothers wanted to spare their babies a long, agonizing death, which is weird to me, though, because drowning is supposed to be one of the most painful, worst fucking ways to die. Now, it's relatively quick, but, like, so would throwing your baby off a cliff, like, that would be quick, and that would kill them basically instantly when they hit.
That one wouldn't fucking feel quick. I don't think drowning.
It's a baby, though. Either. A lot of here's a fun fact, because mine's going through this phase right now. A baby wouldn't necessarily, I guess it depends on the age you're talking about, but this makes it sound like infants, which is also weird because you tend to breastfeed that, but I guess maybe you can't produce milk if you yourself are starving to death. Anyway, babies a lot of times don't have the fear or a sensation of falling. My fucker keeps crawling off the couch because she thinks it's hilarious. Now, of course,
funny. You see Jackass?
I think so. I think it's funny too. So what I do as a parent, I'm not, I've made it pretty clear already this episode that I'm kind of an asshole dad. I'm not that much of an asshole to let her like fall head first onto the wood floors. I do catch her, but I let her fall first.
My name's Johnny Knoxville, and I'm going to run into a coffee table.
Basically, that's what it is when they're 6 months old. And what I've learned is it lasts till they're at least 4, because my 4-year-old's not that much better about this stuff. And maybe my problem is that I let her do it and then catch her, because now I think she thinks that it's not a problem to fall off the couch. And it's like, yeah, if your mom wouldn't shoot me, I would let you fall so that you could go, ouch, that fucking hurt, and maybe stop doing it. But
of course, that would be the one time where it's like,
it snaps her neck or something. Yeah. Which that's what she's like 50-50, and she has fallen. She rolled off the couch once or twice, so when she rolls off, it's not a huge deal. We don't have a real tall couch.
It's good that she has the natural instinct to tuck and roll when she becomes like a renegade cop.
Well, it's not a completely honed instinct, because the other half of the time she'll literally jump head first. Like, she'll get to the edge and then she'll kind of wiggle, like she'll rock back and then rock forward. Like, she doesn't just slide off. She'll throw herself head first off the fucking couch.
Well, it's kind of something you learn in skateboarding. Is like, there's ways to fall to kind of protect yourself. And some skateboarders have this, and a lot of them fucking don't.
No, because the proper way to fall, we learned it in self-defense. I've taken jiu-jitsu and just hand-to-hand combat. I'll just leave it at that because it makes my past sound way cooler than it is. But that's one of the things you learn there, too, because it's important if you're in a fight and you go down to try to go down in a way that doesn't, like, snap your fucking arm so that you can't continue to fight effectively. The problem is the correct way to fall is the exact opposite of your natural instinct of what to do when you fall. Unless you're me. I'm so, that's the other thing. You say it, there's like, and I think you've learned over the years is how like laid back I am about a lot of things. Like I bottle it up like most healthy males, but like I'm to the point where I think a lot of times when I'm falling, I'm naturally just like, whatever. Can't do anything about it now.
This feels kind of cool before it'll feel bad.
Feel bad.
It's Matthew McConaughey falling off a building.
Yeah. My whole point is that we've veered way off course on this, is that I don't know. I think maybe throwing a baby off a cliff, as long as you heave them far enough to make sure they don't like bounce on the way down, is the more merciful way to do it than
it's all about the
drowning.
Perfect spiral.
Right.
By the time they hit ground, they'll be so dizzy. Oh man, that's dark.
But the more important fact is if you throw them off the cliff, they hit the ground and splat. Yeah. If you throw them in a river, apparently there's a chance that they, instead of drowning, survive, adapt, evolve, and start to like do things like grow gills and scales and sharp teeth and claws, and they get raised by wild animals. We covered that a couple months ago. But apparently it works if you throw them in water. They get raised by water animals, and they just are like, oh, I can just grow gills and breathe. Like, apparently in the blink of an eye, because that's not something you can slowly do. Yeah. You've got, a good 20, 30 seconds as a baby,
the problem with that myth is, like, there's not a lot of shit surviving in Idaho waters that were meant for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much shit would actually evolve in there to adapt to that.
So aside from the scales and gills and claws, they developed an all-consuming hunger for vengeance, which I get.
That's fair.
Yeah. Even into adulthood, they never stopped dwelling on the fact that their own mothers tried to murder them. But then they were possessed by angry demons, because why the fuck not just add that on to it? Like, they already have plenty of, like, you've built into your story plenty of reasons for them to be, like, monsters that want to kill people. They're like, and they're also demonic now.
Yeah. Also, Satan was here.
Yeah, just cause. But that is also a common thing where you see, like, demons possessing people because they've, like, grown so angry that it just opens them up as vessels.
Yeah,
whatever.
Your negative emotions are a door that Lucifer will kick open.
Yeah. Which, again, reeks of, like, white people coming in and taking a story that was already there from the natives and then being like, we're going to add to it.
You know what this needs? Our fucking Bible.
Christianity. Yep.
I don't know. I think a little fucking weird vengeful fish babies are probably, there's probably enough material there. We don't have to pad it.
No, and I didn't put it together till you said it, but that's the exact thing. Is like the frontiersmen came and they heard that and they're like, fuck, that's evolution. The Bible does not allow for that. We got to add demons to this fucker right now.
That's fair. Only things that evolve do it through by turning their back on God.
Right. So now the not just revengeful but also demonic adult fish baby things are out for blood. And not just their mothers, because the best way to say that it was bad for their mother to try to murder you is by turning around and murdering a bunch of random other people. Like, how dare this one specific person try to kill me? That was wrong. I'm going to kill a bunch of people to teach you a lesson. Which, again, is very common in stories.
Yeah.
But whatever. But that one is actually very true to human beings, how we think as a species. You see that all the time, and fuck, that's like the whole conservative political thing is I feel like I'm getting fucked by one person, so the only way to make this right is to fuck over a whole bunch of other people. That'll settle the score. Water babies lure their victims by mimicking the cooing and crying sounds of infants, drawing in concerned passerby, but driving away people like me who don't want anything to do with other people's fucking children. Like, I was picturing that if you're trying to be like, oh no, there's a baby lost in the water. Like, there's a 50% chance I'm going to play the, like, pretend I didn't hear it card because I don't want to fucking deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 2 kids. That's enough. I don't need a third fish baby. Or they mimic the sounds of beautiful women. I was unaware that beautiful women sound different than other women, but that's a ruse that's just as unlikely to work on me, a guy who is intimidated by all women.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah, you could shorten that. Just like, they sounded like women, because guys don't care.
Yeah, so I'm picturing, well, I don't know. That one's pretty split. There's a lot of guys that be like, if it's like, I'm a woman and I'm bathing.
It's like anything else where it's like, yeah, you have your preferences, but fuck off. You're a frontiersman. You're really going to be like...
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. I thought you meant that, like, it would drive off. No, it's like, just...
it could be nail on a chalkboard, fucking Harley Quinn screeching, and you'll float over like that fucking cartoon dog smelling a pie on the windowsill.
Well, and in fairness, if I've been in the wilderness for months at a time with just other guys...
Oh, yeah.
I think even if I knew the legend, but like there's a 90% chance this thing's going to kill me, I fucking welcome that. Yeah. There's a 1% chance I'm going to get lucky.
10% chance I'm going to have the best fucking story ever.
Right. So either way, when their chosen victims come to investigate the sounds, they are attacked and dragged underwater, where instead of surviving and evolving like babies do, us adult folk just simply drown. So that sucks. Although, I think I would still prefer that to becoming a fish creature, to be honest. Because, well, again, we got to point out, a fish creature in Idaho.
Yeah. Just sounds boring.
Yeah.
I say that as a human creature.
The pictures of the lakes there, though, some of those lakes are pretty beautiful.
No,
but that's not the kind that I would be.
There is like great, like actual
nature.
Like wildlife and stuff. It's just you have to live there too, you know.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is a lot of those places that are great for that kind of stuff are the kind of places that become exponentially less great when you're stuck there
like the
100% of the time.
Like the reason why it hasn't, like a lot of that nature hasn't been totally ruined is because it's just really hard to survive in a place like that.
So unlike that first one where there was an ending to the legend where they're like, we said fuck it, we killed them all. This one doesn't have that, so I added my own. And it's pretty, like it's a theory I came up with and it really fits. And I think, it's got some legs. Is that as humans, we continue to destroy the natural habitat of demonic fish baby creatures, they were forced to move to the city and give up their murderous ways to instead seek revenge on humans by taking jobs at the post office or BMV, by being as unhelpful as possible. I mean, it really explains a lot about experiences I've had at post offices and BMVs. I think they're the fish babies that are like, fuck it. Yeah. This is how I'm going to get back at humans.
This is how I'm going to make a living.
And then my last set is actually like a forfer.
A furfer.
Forfer. Apparently, Idaho has at least 4 Loch Ness monsters. Because Idaho is such a fucking boring place that they had to not only steal the idea of the Loch Ness style creature, which basically any place with a large lake does.
We had to put it in a smaller lake. And
then copy and paste it at least 4 fucking times.
Yeah.
So the first one is a large, mysterious monster that witnesses report seeing gliding gracefully among the pristine water of Payette Lake. Payette? Maybe Payette. In the 1950s, a local newspaper held a contest to come up with a name for the beast. And as we've learned with Bodie McBoatface and the Green Bay Packers, asking the public to name anything is a big fucking mistake. This is no exception, as the name that won, and has been used ever since, is Charlie. That's right, Charlie with an S.
Oh yeah, I've heard of this.
Yep, Charlie. It's apparently a pretty beloved creature. They love their Charlie in Idaho. So they do not fear it, they celebrate it. Although naming the thing Charlie seems less of a celebration and more like mass bullying. And that's all I've got on Charlie. It's a fucking Loch Ness monster in Payette Lake named Charlie. There's not even like a singular
fucking Native Americans can help us out of this one.
Well, I guess we should give it to them for not just like appropriating some Native American sounding word or name. Although that's probably what they were trying to do. I don't know. There may be a story behind the name Charlie. I didn't care. That's all I got on Charlie. These ones are going to be relatively short, except for the last one, because it was my favorite. Then there's the Bear Lake Monster. The Bear Lake Monster is a 25-foot water devil, first reported in the 1800s by a Joseph C. Rich, who was a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. A fact that seems irrelevant, yet every single article I found mentions it first and foremost.
Yeah. Like every copy of this story comes with his business card.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's like the very first thing they mentioned about the guy. So it came across as very derogatory, like almost racist. Yeah, like this Latter-day Saints guy. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. I may or may not have my opinions on that particular religion, but it has none of those have anything to do with seeing a Loch Ness Monster creature. The more important facts about Mr. J. Rich is that he never claimed to see the monster himself, but rather claimed to have learned of it through secondhand accounts of the monster that locals, i.e. Native Americans, had relayed to him. So when I say that, like, the story first broke, it's when he wrote some articles for the local paper, or he gave interviews for whatever. It appeared in the paper, but it didn't appear as I was walking down by the lake and saw it. It was I was talking to some Native American folk, and they said they seen it. I think that's how they talk in Idaho. That's how they talk here. And then probably the even more important fact is that he eventually admitted that he made the whole fucking thing up, like, just to make up a paper for the story. But like many important facts throughout human history, people mostly overlook that part, and the legend of the Bear Lake Monster has only grown in the decade and a half since he first talked about it to the paper. The one unique thing about the BLM, and by that I mean Bear Lake Monster and not the civil rights slogan, is that apparently it features a super fucking long neck that it uses to pop up out of the water and snatch victims offshore. So, like, you're just walking along, checking out the lake, and this big fucking neck pops up and it's like, yoink, like a prehistoric, like, claw machine or something.
Yeah, I don't.
Which is funny to me. Like, if it's the kind of stuff that you see in a sci-fi channel, a sci-fi, like, not even B-rated movie, you know, just like I'm picturing like the worst stop motion animatronic, whatever special effect happening. And if I saw, like, if my friend got eaten like that, I'm sorry, I'd laugh. Like, it would be comical. you'd be surprised, like, what the fuck? And like, oh shit. But you'd also be like, that was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I don't really know. And also, why do you assume that, that's its neck? Why don't you assume it's like a snake or an eel or something? Like, that's where my head goes. Yeah,
not only... Well, I'm convinced that like 90% or better of Loch Ness Monsters are sturgeon. Have you ever seen a sturgeon? And they do tend to swim like kind of in a pack, like in a line.
Yeah.
They look like fucking monsters, and they're huge. And
I'm just saying, like, you're going to rip off the Loch Ness. Like, this is where you have to, like, tweak the Wikipedia entry that you're copying, you know?
Right. And just wait, we'll get there, but not on this one.
That one, there's no hope for.
Yeah, no. Now, most of the stories on the Bear Lake Monster, when you look them up online at least, they like to mention the fact that recently the remains of the mysterious creature measuring 25 feet in length did wash up on the shores of Bear Lake, and that a lot of people think that this prehistoric creature, which for so long stalked the waters, finally succumbed to something.
And a lot of other people say, that's bullshit.
Right, because they end with that, and I was like, oh, like, I'm curious, because you hear a lot of that, and a lot of times stuff does wash up on shore, but it actually has pretty common, like, they're always like, scientists are confused, and you read it and scientists are like, no, we're fucking not, it's this thing. Like, they're like, we know exactly what it is, you don't know what it is. But anyway, so I was like, yeah, I want to look it up and see what actually nothing fucking washed up on shore. It's one of those things that they just add with such a, like, matter of fact. That's why it doesn't say, like, in August of 1998.
And it crashed at my house for 3 days.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that. They supposedly had remains. They don't. Nothing I could find.
That's always drove me nuts. Like, ever since we've started doing this show and we've done, like, urban legends and myths and stuff, like, those are some of my favorite stories to do, because they're funny, but also I like the idea that there's still, like, mystery in the world, even though it's bullshit. Like, most of the time, I like those stories because it makes things seem interesting. But stop trying to prove it. Like, stop trying to, like, say there's evidence for it. Just, this is only interesting.
Well, I don't even care if you give that bullshit grainy Bigfoot video evidence, because It's funny to me and interesting and whatever. Like, there's still a part, as much as I'll like shit on all that stuff, there's still a part of your brain that goes, but what if?
It's also clearly your neighbor.
So that's the Bear Lake monster. The Lake-pinned Oriel monster is the next one. It's a large gray prehistoric-looking creature.
So I didn't know this until I just started doing my current job, but I think that's pronounced Ponderay.
Could be. It's the weirdest looking name.
Because it's a nearby county to where I live. So
well, there we go. We'll say Lake Ponderay.
I call it Pend Oriel in my head.
Yeah, that's how
all
it's
the
spelled.
time.
And I kind of assumed that I wasn't going to pronounce it right, but I did not assume it'd be that fucking different.
Yeah, it's very... Well, there's a town in Idaho called Coeur d'Alene, and like besides the apostrophes, everything about that's spelled weird to me.
Yeah, that's the thing is I've heard of that place. I guarantee if I read it, I'd be like, "What the fuck is that place?" And then you'd say it out loud, like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that."
Yeah.
Anyway, so like you say, Ponderay. Ponderay. So the Ponderay monster lives in Lake Ponderay. It's big, it's gray, it looks like a dinosaur, prehistoric monster. It's the fucking Loch Ness Monster, except in Idaho.
Yeah.
The end. That was like basically the whole thing. Nothing really fucking interesting about that at all, other than it's the third out of the 4 that I found in my like 30 minutes of searching for lake monsters in Idaho. Which makes me wonder why the fucking like none of the colleges out there. Well, maybe I can't say none of them. Maybe they do have. Like, where's the Idaho lake monsters? Like, that's
the problem with like all these. Like, everybody wants their own Loch Ness monster and their own Bigfoot and stuff. It's like, if these fucking things were everywhere, we would have seen one by now. Yeah, that's why you have to make your monster unique. You got to come up with your own shit.
And I get where a lot of this stuff comes from, because I'm a water person. Maybe I was a water baby. I don't know. No, I love the water.
Yeah.
I love being on the water. I love swimming and being on boats and stuff, and I grew up with it. But in Ohio, where our bodies of water are puddles, even as such, like, we had a pond at the house that I grew up in that we had dug. Like, it wasn't there when we moved in, and we had a bunch of equipment come in and dig a fucking hole that filled with water, and we had a pond. So, like, I knew what was in the pond because we were the creators of the pond. And there were times you could be out there swimming if you're by yourself and it was quiet or, you know, whatever, that, you know, the water was murky enough you couldn't see. It wasn't like a crystal clear pond. And it's just part of your brain. Like, you instantly go to, like, what's down there? Like, water is a whole nother world. And some of these lakes, like Pond or whatever, array.
I hear the venom in your voice. Like, you hate that pronunciation.
I do, because Pend Oriel is more interesting to me.
Pend Oriel. That sounds like a fucking cologne.
Like, it's some of these lakes are really fucking deep. Like, they can be hundreds of feet. I've been on lakes that are 100 feet or better deep. So your brain always, like, it's natural to be like, what could be swimming in here? The answer is fucking nothing. Mm-hmm. Fish, because it's a pond. But I get why they're common, but then every town wants to turn it into their kitschy thing. It's like, well, it becomes way less of a cutesy, kitschy attraction when every goddamn lake has one. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then clearly, some of them win out the popularity contest because Charlie is beloved, and all these other ones were just like, yeah. And this particular one, they're like, we're not even going to try. It's a fucking Loch Ness monster in our lake. It's there.
Yeah.
The end. That's all I have.
They should have a giant walking potato.
That's the thing, is swimming like a big nautical underwater potato. Do it. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's fucking stupid, but so are all of these legends. Like, one day, some guy took a bite out of a raw potato and was like, this fucking tastes like shit, and threw it in the water. And that potato was so angry. Yeah, demon possessed it. There's a demon potato
I like that story a lot. That's got to be the next creepypasta.
Right, it's got everything. Like, it's got the idiot that tries to eat a raw potato, and it's like it tastes like shit. When potatoes, as boring as they are,
what the fuck is wrong with this apple?
Right. The outside tastes like dirt, and the inside tastes like acid. And I could barely get through it. Fuck this. This dirt rock. The last one is my favorite, probably my favorite out of all these creatures, which is saying a lot because it takes a lot to take a Loch Ness Monster type story and make it fun for me. The Swan Valley Monster. It's said to reside in a river near Olds Ferry, which must be in Swan Valley. This is a Loch Ness Monster if the Loch Ness Monster were fucking designed by Dr. Seuss, like, on cocaine, which is a lot. So, aside from the bright red forked tongue that also shoots poison, despite the fact that that's not at all how any fucking creature in the world delivers poison.
This is where the dude who made this shit up, his kid came in and just started describing a video game.
And he wanted, I'll include Lincoln and stuff. It's fun to get her included. But that stuff quickly becomes fucking ridiculous because she's 4. And that's what happened here. Yeah. So yeah, the tongue shoots poison. Like I said, there's creatures on Earth that shoot poison. Not a damn one uses their tongue because that wouldn't fucking work real well. You tend to have...
You do that thing where you kind of flick spit with your tongue? Is that what they're talking about?
I guess. It sports a long serpent-like head, which is interesting because serpent heads aren't long. Their bodies are, but the heads tend to be just little round, heads at the end. But this one has a long serpent head. But that long serpent head has an even longer elephant-like trunk on the nose. So that tongue must get pretty good accuracy to shoot the acid past the fucking elephant trunk. And why doesn't the trunk shoot acid? Like, that makes way more sense to me. Whatever.
Fine.
It's got webbed spike fins on its neck. Its face has long black whiskers on each side.
This is just Gyarados from Pokemon.
It's got a single black horn, like a goth unicorn. So we need more shit on it. Like, it gets better. I'll wait. Its head is spotted, they said mottled, but, just kind of that, like, nature camouflage of yellow and black. But that was apparently too tedious for whoever created this to continue coloring in because the rest of the body is just a dull gray. It's like they're doing this cool pattern in their head and they're like, fuck, this is exhausting. It's just gray. The rest is gray. Solid gray. That dull gray body is said to be very long. How long? Very long. There's not a consistency. It's just very long.
It's a biggin.
And it's shaped like an alligator. But also more like a cow or maybe a horse.
Yeah, those are the same.
Right? It's got sharp spines down the entire length of its back. And also several, how many? Several. No consistency here either. Rows of legs. Which alternate between being hoofed and clawed. Because why not? It's an all-terrain fucking monster.
Yeah. It's brought to you by Jeep.
So, the story goes that while traveling along this river, a group of rough-and-tumble frontiersmen were confronted by the foul-smelling creature because it's also got a very obnoxious, unpleasant odor to it. Startled by its completely fucking ridiculous appearance, one of the men shot the thing in the eye. That's what you do. They're like, what the fuck? I'm shooting this fucker in the eye.
Look at all these other things we described, but the eye is pissing me off.
It had the eye of a beautiful woman. That was the problem. He saw the eye through a thicket.
I saw my mother in it. Damn it.
So he shot it in the eye, and in the midst of its death throes, as it's crashing around, the creature used its aforementioned red forked tongue to shoot poison fucking everywhere. and everything it touched instantly withered and died. So basically like the alien from Aliens, or like the alien from Alien, caustic acid spewing poison. Didn't kill the men, though. They just scampered back to town like, oh, shit. Let's get back to town. Where they regrouped and were like, let's go back to the monster and get it. But when they got there, they found out that it hadn't actually died. It just slinked back off into the water and swam away. So apparently they didn't find a creature. They just found all the fucking moonshine that they were obviously drinking. Like, if you're going to come up with a creature... Like, they didn't even fucking try to make it believable.
Yeah.
So they're just like, let's throw let's throw a bunch of shit from other animals. They're like, let's make up a bunch of shit that doesn't exist on any animal. I guess the elephant truck exists.
This is what happens when your hunting trip runs out of booze, so you go to mouthwash.
Right. Or gasoline. They didn't have gasoline yet, but yet they still were drinking it. So, while I really like this Loch Ness Monster better than the rest, by a long shot, I'm a little pissed that they didn't call it Idaho's massive, throbbing, goo-spewing, one-eyed beast. Rolls right off the tongue, especially if she's doing it right. So that's all I got for Idaho. There was actually a lot more I was going to include, but by the time I got done with that one, I'm like, I think that's enough for a show.
Ben probably has some poop thoughts that can fill half an episode. So,
right. I was counting on the pant shitification talk.
I mean, that's always there. They're all reliable.
It really is. Again, if this is your first episode, A, sorry. And B, just know that about at least 30% of our shows start.
The archive don't get much better.
Shitting. Right. And it really is not a one-off.
Yeah, it's a calling.
In fact, it's our number 2 way to start the show. But
it's also why we're the number 1 podcast in self-help podcasts on Spotify.
I get to put, like, apparently when you start a podcast, which obviously anybody can do, when you post it to places like Spotify, you get to pick, like, the category tags. Yeah. I need to switch from comedy and humor, which as a self-deprecating, like, asshole with zero self-esteem, like, it always feels bad to put that, because it's like, well, I think I'm funny, but I don't think anybody else does. I'm going to replace the comedy and humor tags with self-help. And just watch the numbers for our shows, like, take off. Like,
yeah. I used to shit my pants all the time.
No, I used to feel bad about it.
I feel ashamed.
But still, Steve and Ben normalized it.
Since I've tried the non-essential pants shitting method, I've eaten all the Taco Bell I want.
Yeah, and to be clear,
die.
If you didn't pick up on our subtle hits earlier, the non-essential podcast pants shitting method is let it rip.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Because really the onus is on the people around you to understand.
Well, it's one of those things. I've learned a lot of life lessons very recently by watching I Think You Should Leave. We bring that up a lot now, too.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I've learned is to picture life in the context of an I Think You Should Leave sketch. Like, not to pick one, not do that thing where you're like, that's like this sketch, although I do that a lot, too. But be like, if this were to happen as a skit on that show, how would it play down?
Well, it would be
and the one thing that I can tell you with 1,000% confidence after watching that show is that if you shit your pants and don't acknowledge it and just be confident, you're fine. Everybody else will be like, nobody else is going to acknowledge it.
I think it would end like a sketch like that would end in, it would be one of those like randomly like try to make it sad moments where it's like, I shit my pants and I needed your help. I asked you for help to let me go home because I had shit in my pants and you told everybody.
That's true. I can very much see Tim saying it in that exact.
And it's just playing sad piano. Like,
but then it needs to.
But then he shits a little bit more. It's funny again.
Right. I still have shit in my pants.
Sam Robinson, if you want me to write for your show, I'll do it for free. Yeah. It'll just be that. It won't get better, but I would do it for free.
Yeah, in fact, I don't even mind the internet dogpiling on me as a scab because I'm writing during the strike. Like, I'll do it, like, for free during the strike to become, like, the Hitler of the comedy world.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
But it'd be fun.
I wouldn't cross the picket line, but...
Well, is it crossing the picket line if you do?
Paid? If someone's
well,
making,
yeah,
if the
because they're making money.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the problem. It's not about you getting paid. They would make money off of it.
So, Tim, if you want to upload random sketches to YouTube, I'll do it for free.
Or come on our show and do sketches. Do audio sketches on our show. I guarantee you, nobody's making money off.
Can we do an episode where we just interview you about the last time you shit your pants? Like, your career's cool, dog, but seriously, when's the last time you thought it was just a fart?
Yeah. Anyway,
that's an hour.
I hope that happens. I hope that happens sometime.
You never know. You got to shoot your shot, right?
Right. You don't know. One of our listeners could be his like nephew.
You got to hear these two. They're really dumb.
And not in the good way, like you.
They're fucking awful, and they want to talk to you. All right.
It fits with the theme. But anyway.
Yeah, we're out of here.
Thank you for listening. I hope you learned more about Idaho this show than you knew your entire life, like I did.
Yeah, if you didn't grow up there, they don't talk about it. I learned that after I moved.
And it's not even one of those we're embarrassed about, like we don't talk about Idaho because we're embarrassed. It's we don't talk about Idaho because there's literally nothing to say.
Oh, yeah.
About
apparently
Idaho.
You just steal other people's monsters.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see you next time. Toodles.